Hello, I'm going to show you how you can create a project. This project will in turn create a survey that we refer to as a trust survey. We will then send it out into the marketplace and to your prospective customers. In the preview, you will be able to see exactly what the survey looks like, although not in the same design. But all the questions that we will ask the respondents, who will then measure the willingness to pay for your product or service. But we start off by naming the project name. And this is just for internal purposes so that you can easily navigate and know what it is that you are measuring. For example, if you do something for an autumn launch or in a particular market, I recommend writing the product or service name such as Air Max Running Shoes Autumn 2023. And if you have several markets, I recommend writing down what market, such as the US. This is because you want to take different markets and compare them to each other, since you can only measure one geographical point at a time. Here you get the option to choose whether it's a product or service. In our example, it's a product and we are launching a new product to the market. But you can also just measure adjusting my current prices or find out if you should change per unit to a subscription model or launching your product in a new market. In this step, we are creating what we refer to as variables, a neutral word for your product and service. And in these variables, you have to avoid using brand names and you have to use the a, an, or plural. So although we are Nike in this particular example, we cannot write Nike. We have to write just generic, a running shoe. But you wouldn't say that. You would use plural, running shoes. The more descriptive you are, the better your results will be. So if you write just shoes, that's not very descriptive, but it could be vegan running shoes or designer running shoes, anything like that, for example. The more description you get, the more accurate the results will be. And by default, the first letter will always be lowercase. So I can't write anything uppercase here, but you can see the following letters will be fine to use uppercase, but not the first one. It will be lowercase by default. This is due to how it will look in the survey, and a capitalized word would be grammatically incorrect. And that's the same in describing what's unique about your product. So here we get to use full two sentences. So for example, comfortable and made in the US, and I always forget that there is no dot in the end. And the price is 150 USD, and finally, per unit sold. Because again, maybe you have a subscription model. Next step, what industry is your product related to? Here you can pick as many as you want, but you have to pick at least two, and they're quite broad. And sometimes it could be tricky finding one that suits you. But wellness, fashion, clothing, sport, and recreation. I think those two are pretty generic and it fits me very well. But we want to limit it to people who are interested in buying our product or service. Next step may be a bit trickier. You have to find which option would describe your product best. A product that most people will not afford to buy with high design, branded identification, such as Rolex watches. This is considered a premium or luxury product or a long lifespan or at least 3 years that you use often. Refrigerators, computers, other electronic sport accessories, a niche product or convenience product. So for example, shoes are certainly convenience products. So these are different categories and we will screen out the responses that we consider not relevant based on what product you have. Moving on, we have to confirm, yes, do we indeed have a convenience product since these are running shoes? And in this step, we get to select 2 to 4 main features or attributes of our products, and we already have some predefined. So for example, we're from a well-known brand. They are comfortable, and they are long-lasting, and they are vegan. All of these attributes that I'm selecting, we will be able to see what customers want to pay the most from, that they're comfortable or that they're from a well-known brand. And you will also be able to see different demographics such as, will young men be more inclined to pay for a more well-known brand or that they're comfortable? What is the driving force behind your customer's purchasing decision? Moving on, here we identify another 2 to 4 reasons that we get to measure why your product is so special. So, for example, prominent brand ambassadors. I'm Nike. I have a lot of deals with big athletes. We are also an environmentally sustainable company. The shoes have a very sleek design. Alright, that's it. I don't want to write anything more. I don't have to. Between 2 and 4 attributes. And in this step, we measure why people would hesitate to buy our products. Well, maybe it's too expensive, complicated to use. They are of lesser quality. They are uncomfortable. These are the 3 things I would like to understand about my potential customers. This step is about where I sell my product. I would sell them on my own website. I would also sell them on generic online retailers, but also specialty retail stores and my own stores. Here you have to remember that if you want to measure, say that I am in the US and filling this out, but actually launching in Germany. And if I press from generic online retailers, Amazon and eBay might not be the biggest ones. But even though you pick this, you get localized answers. So that's true for all the predefined. Otherwise, you can fill in whatever you want and have something very special. And that's true for whether it's translated or not translated, such as department stores. Macy's is not the same in the UK as it is in the US, and this is important to remember when you do that. But we've already done that job for you. And here we can measure the willingness to pay based on whether you're Nike or Adidas. So for example, Nike, Reebok, Adidas, and Puma. So we can measure the willingness to pay for each brand. So do customers want to buy running shoes from Puma? And if so, how much more are they willing to pay rather than Nike? So you can get an insight into your competition's pricing. Of course, look at competitive pricing as a very important thing when you price something, but it shouldn't be the only factor. And depending on branding and marketing, your competitors will have a strong game or a weaker game compared to your brand. So you get to see what customers really want to pay more for, and you could either rejoice or maybe have a little bit of a sneak peek and see what they're doing. Next step, tell us about your intended customers. When would your customers use the product? Well, we would do it while working out, but maybe to the office as well, and while running in the forest. Those are the three that I would like to measure. I want to look at both genders, and I want to look from 18. You cannot test below 18. And that has to do with the panels that we're asking. I actually only want to look until 60 years old. I'm looking in the US and I can target specific regions if I want to, but I don't want that because I want to look at the entire US market and I want to do it in English. Now I can preview what it would look like to make sure this looks appropriate. This is a short study on running shoes, comfortable and made in the US. Maybe I want to change this a little bit. Comfortable and stylish design. They are made in the US. Okay, save. Now it's going to jump back, so we have to look at that preview again. This is my project. I press edit and preview. Okay, so we see the text updated. They're made in the US. Here you can walk through each question that we would ask the respondents. This is the entire text. Again, the design is different. These number 2 and 3, you can't change because these are the ones that we use for screening out. But these you can change. These are the attributes and the other values that you filled in. When choosing, choose which feature or attribute would be most important in your selection. Here I've written down they are vegan, they are comfortable, they are long-lasting, it's from a well-known brand. If I want to change that, that's no problem. And this right now is a little bit tricky because I have to untick it again and then tick it again. They are very cool. Yeah, you probably don't want to ask that, but now I've updated it and you see that question updated. So these will be the most important ones because this is what we will ask your customers to pick, that they are comfortable. If most people pick that, if they drive the highest willingness to pay, that's essential. You can walk through the preview to control that it looks accurate. Here is what the competitors' questions look like. Please select your preferred brand. That's what we're asking the customers when they would use it. Where did they buy or consider buying the product? We also measure what social media networks they follow, so you can get that as willingness to pay as well. Perhaps people who want to pay for the highest for your running shoes are on Instagram. Well, now you know where you need to put all your marketing efforts into Instagram, and you need to talk about how they're environmentally sustainable, and you need to talk about that for this or that age group or this and that gender. And these last questions you also cannot change. And this is where we deduce our algorithm from, and we ask the customers to fill out their price, and that's it. Once you press submit, you cannot change it. It's live and gathering data, but you can always update the draft. And again, you can find your project, go back, edit details, duplicate it, deactivate it. That's it. That's how you create a project. Thank you very much for watching.